thank you, Alison and Nicola, for inviting me to do this, and thank you, well, gentlemen. It's lovely to be here at a wonderful occasion like this. You know, it's a great moment. 25 years is a hell of a long time, and amazing experience. But so this is your chance. This is designed to be Fireside Chat to tease out some interesting anecdotes. And let's be frank, to ask all those questions you really wanted to ask these guys, you know, over the years. We're going to have to try a nice conversation about the experience you've had the last 25 years, what you've learned, where it's come from, where it's going to in terms of Martech and all that stuff. So please do dig in. I'd love to get your questions and your comments. Don't be shy. It's in this intimate audience, so I'd love to kind of get your contributions along the way. So 1999, right? Hands up who remembers 1999. I just about remember 1999. Let's go back to the beginning again. Let's talk about your time at the start. So we started the heady days of 1999. We heard about where you met before. What was your motivation to set up a company? Was it revenge? I want to get out. Well, I've got a break from a new company, do my own thing, or was it, or blind ambition? What was it that made you do this crazy, foolhardy thing to set up your own business?
Probably to answer that, we've got to cut quite a long story short.
Yeah, we have.
So yeah, we were working it out the other day, weren't we? About 40 odd years ago.
Right.
Which was a very long time, in the late 80s. We were both working for computer manufacturers, actually, that were around in the days when there were still computer manufacturers in the UK. And I think we first met at a trade show.
So at a trade show, and you were showing off this huge, great thing with a on
This
the
is
floor.
back in the days when computers were about the size of a fridge, if you can imagine that.
Yes.
And I was extremely proud of the fact that this particular computer that we were selling had a door that went down automatically, so you could fit the floppy disk in. If you remember, no, you don't know.
You mean the coffee cup holder, right?
That's
Okay.
right. Showed this to Tony, who was bowled over, weren't you?
I was quite impressed, yes.
Can't remember really what happened after that, but I think we kept bumping into each other. We sort of knew each other, as you do. And we ended up, to cut a bit of a long story short, working at the same software business. I'd at that stage, I'd come from a technical background myself, as has Tony, but I'd moved into sales and marketing by then.
Yeah.
Tony was... You
were very impressed by my development skills on networking. Even this is before the internet.
That's right.
And so, yes, you decided to take a risk and hire me.
Yeah.
And it kind of boiled on from there. And I became the technical director of that organisation. So he was a sales and marketing, I was a technical director. We kind of had, water cooler conversations about what we would do next, and ambition was always there, and we decided that we wanted to do something different, and that's really the germ, the seed that started it showing you.
So you knew you wanted to do something different, because the thing that gets me, right, was we sit around, I live in this world of B2B marketing every day, and technology is so integral to it. It's bound in. There was a point previously where it felt like it was a bit of a silo, but now it's just integrally bound into everything. What did that look like in 1999? What was, what were you moving into? Did you even know what you were moving into?
Well, we were heavily involved in real-time computers or real-time operating systems.
Right.
That is serious techie stuff. And I guess we wanted to see what there was on the other side of the fence, as it were. And
because you thought there was an opportunity to do more of that, or because you thought there was more things you could be doing that you weren't doing?
Well, yeah, that's part of what. And we had ambition to star on, do something on our own. Really.
I think originally the plan was, because the business, as we were still there, it plateaued a bit.
Yeah.
And there were 3 directors, as Tony's mentioned, and we kind of knew that we had to pivot into some other area.
Right.
We weren't sure what that area is, but Tony and I went down the CRM route because we started to investigate that. It was the big thing at the time.
Yeah.
It was just starting to happen. And I think a few of the customers that we had there had started to invest in it. So we could see it was, a potential bet for the future. And I think that, coupled with the motivation to do something on our own, was that point where we said, okay, let's make the leap.
So it was push and pull. You could see something that you're going to go for, but where you didn't want to be there forever. You wanted to do something
and
new.
we had a shared vision. I don't think our vision was shared with the third director really. So we took the opportunity basically to sell our shares at that stage, and it gave us a bit of capital to start a new business. But very quickly we realised that the salary stopped at that point, which took us into our sort of first year, didn't it?
Hoping that we got a very small bit of business in the early days, but it was waiting for the phone to ring. But we were also doing our own marketing and so on around that, and going to trade shows and things like that, doing our best to get ourselves known in the industry.
As I'm trying to relate this slightly back to, without wishing to reflect back on this and my experience of this, because you're moving into something, you bet on something which is emerging, CRM, but it's very nascent, right? There's not much there. It's not like now where you've got 90% adoption of CRM.
But that's really where the platform that we've built the whole business on really is taking a bit of technology that we've not got a huge amount of knowledge about, and getting up to speed with it very quickly and getting really under the skin of it quickly.
If I was cynical, I would sound like fluffing it to a certain extent. But I'm not cynical, so I wouldn't say that. So
there's a bit of seat of the pants,
Yeah.
capability there, and
fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make
it. There's some truth in that, I think, when you start a business. We were pretty naive, I have to say, weren't we? Really,
Definitely, yeah.
We thought business would come to us because we were, good at whatever we did, and it didn't quite work that way. We were, I don't know, I'd love to say it was all part of the big plan, but we were lucky in that we found a niche by cozying up to a marketing agency that was referred to earlier, actually. And we found that CRM was fine, and the promise of CRM was fine, but in practice, it didn't really allow marketing to do what they wanted. It was all aimed at the sales guys.
Yeah.
So very early on, we took the opportunity to say, okay, let's put some marketing functionality in here. At the same time, we started to work with this agency who had some big clients at the time. And we kind of provided technical...
Well, we developed our first product.
Did we? At that
We
stage?
did. That was, catchily named the LTWS.
Yes.
Which was a lead tracking website.
Available at all good stores. No.
So you weren't going to be a brand agency then?
No.
Yes. No. And you'll see that that's followed with us, actually.
Consistency is very underrated as an attribute, right?
Yes, we like difficult to remember acronyms.
So what in terms of that was the kind of opportunity you could recognise opportunity, but a shortcoming with CRM in terms of its deployment, its utilisation. So you went out and built a product to
which was running out of Andrew's back bedroom.
Excellent, that's good. Yeah,
Pioneering days.
Pioneering days. Yes.
The service centre.
It was literally when broadband had just been released, I think. So again, a few of these things sort of fell into place at the right time.
Yeah.
Which allowed us to have a bit of a I don't know.
It's like the Microsoft, moment where they're building something in the garage. Well, this was Andrew's box room.
The next stage in the story was that the marketing company we were working with was sold or purchased by I think a larger American outfit, if I remember rightly, Alison. And we'd been providing technical services to their clients.
Yeah.
And they had various contracts that they had to fulfil on the technical side.
Right.
And the agency that were buying this agency basically weren't interested in the technical side.
Okay.
So at that stage, we got, I don't know, a handful almost, wasn't it? 3 or 4 maybe, 5. Quite large customers.
Yeah.
That had, our services that we were providing, but suddenly we didn't have that, the bigger business basically to work behind, if you see what I mean. So we had to grow up pretty fast. We took on these companies, and we took quite a risk, I would say, in taking on some of them. We took over some of the.
This was a naive.
We took over some of the contracts that the company had, but that was really the spark that took us to that first level of growth.
So there's a wonderful, I don't know if you heard, Malcolm Gladwell was interviewed on Radio 4 last week, and I think it was Kirsty Young said to him, and if you know Malcolm Gladwell, has written books like Blink and Tipping Point and things like that. He's a really phenomenal, interesting guy, and she asked him, what is it you wish you'd known before you wrote your first book? And he said, well, there's nothing I wish I'd known, because if I'd known that, I might not have done it. Because there's that kind of naivety of a startup whereby you're trying to find where you are, what you're going to do, and if you knew all the difficulties, you might not do those things. Because is that fair?
That's very fair.
I think that's fair to an extent. And I said earlier that, and you said that it's the seat of the pants thing. But I think there was a confidence that we had in our own abilities, even though it was seat of the pants.
Yeah.
There was a depth of knowledge and that breadth of knowledge.
Yeah.
That we knew, okay, these are difficult things to overcome.
Yeah.
But we've got confidence in our own ability.
Well, we can do it.
That we can do it, and that was pretty key as well.
But that's not fake it till you make it, right? That's the opposite. So, I mean that in all fondness, right? Yeah, I know people who start businesses up. To a certain extent, we were a bit like that. We didn't really know what we were doing, and and so that's to your credit. You had that intellectual knowledge and that confidence and that understanding of what was happening. So, credit where it's due.
Yeah, that and some lucky breaks. To be honest,
definitely.
Yeah. We talked about. You've been painted a brilliant picture of what it was like, or what space you were moving into, or perhaps vacuum rather than space you might describe you moving into. And now we live in this world where CRM is a foundational activity for most enterprise organisations around the world, and so in the world's gone well beyond that, and the range of things and services that you can offer has changed quite dramatically. Or has it? Is it still actually the same in some respects? How does where you are now and what you do now compare with what you thought you might get to? Did you even know where you might get to?
There's certainly some things that haven't changed.
Right.
We always used to. I don't know how old this phrase is, but you remember the right message, right time, right person.
Yeah.
That was talked about back then.
Yeah.
And we're still striving for that today, I think.
I agree.
Do you agree?
Completely, yeah.
We're in a more complex environment these days. Everything, quite a lot has changed.
Yeah.
But still, the core challenges, I say, are similar, if not the same. Data is still the same. The challenges with keeping data clean, and, complete, and everything like that is still the same as before. I think what has changed is the whole technology base.
Yes.
And to a certain extent, the way we provide our services has had to move with the times.
Yeah. I guess you've had to kind of professionalise. I guess to a certain extent, back in those days, it was a little bit of the Wild West, wasn't it? Right? Because the companies didn't really know anything about what they were buying. They kind of knew they had a need, and so there was less. Am I wrong here? Less processes and structure with which you're moving into. Now there's all of that. There's a lot of rigor in purchasing and developing things, isn't there?
Yeah. Database marketing really was probably the most sophisticated term that we used in those days.
Yeah.
Using computers to actually help you do your marketing is a relatively new concept.
Yeah.
Simpler times.
Yeah.
But with similar challenges, if you see what I mean. We were just off that back of that .com bubble that you were talking about as well. And companies, certainly tech companies, where our focus was from very early on, were really having to think about how they marketed because they'd gone from just answering the phone and sales closing deals to suddenly that bubble bursting and them having to market again.
Yeah. So
again, it's another right place, right time.
Yeah. How do you reflect on that, Tony?
Well, I think it was all about emails back then. You had your database, and then you'd use email to spam people the best that you could, and that's what people were expecting to do. And I remember getting involved in all the technical aspects of spamming people back then. And I think gradually we sort of understood that this wasn't acceptable, and we started to see the emergence of more sophisticated platforms that were targeting individuals and being more sophisticated on in terms of who they would allow you to send emails to, and we started to get into opt-outs and all of that good stuff. But it was a wild west back then, and so it was entertaining. And
there's Wild West is quite a fun place, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about the what's helped been successful in that journey along the way. I mean, what are the driving factors behind there? The business has changed. What the services you offer are so much more sophisticated. What's enabled you to get there? What are the key factors?
There's two that spring to mind at the high level. Alison made it sound like it was the Andrew and Tony show. It's not the Andrew and Tony show. We've been very lucky at employing from day one, I have to say, some brilliant people that know how to, certainly today, know how to do things way better than we do.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've got people here who've been with us from the year dot, gone on to do other things and brilliant things in the industry as well.
Yeah.
And we like that. We like to follow them as well and see what they've got up to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I've got to use that opportunity to turn it against Alison a little bit from her talk and say, if it wasn't down to the people that we've employed, in the past and currently, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are today. That brought a lot of sophistication to us. We might have had that initial spark, but certainly from quite early on, it wasn't us. It was.
It became the team.
It became the
team was
team effort.
Critical to the whole thing. Yeah, even down to just people helping out with HR and helping to recruit people and do all of the administrative stuff that Andrew and I aren't particularly good at. We needed that.
So thanks everyone. Anyway, everyone that's here.
Thanks to everybody.
Thank you. The other one that I thought has really been, I guess, to a certain extent, it's the market that we play in, but playing in the tech space with tech companies, they tend to be the ones that are the quick adopters, the first adopters of technology. I think if I look over our first 25 years, it's been our customers that have driven the service development, the product development, more or less everything. Because they are trying to be at the forefront of what they do. They want to try and get that competitive edge against their competitors. And as long as we can stay one step ahead of that curve, then we're doing a good job.
Yeah, and be responsive to it, and to read the signals of what they're asking for. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and we saw that. We saw that in the initial adoption of marketing automation.
Yeah,
we went from providing quite expensive bespoke systems before marketing automation. We saw the beginnings of Eloqua and other those systems come up. And we pivoted to start using those systems because we knew that our customers would go that way at some point, and we could see the market coming before it really hit. So but it's all customer driven. If I think back to a lot of the decisions we had,
I think it's just not just one customer. It's actually seeing the same story in each of the customers, and then taking that and brainstorming it and saying, well, what is it? What are the fundamental issues that all of these customers are having? And then putting together a service offering that actually will reflect all of those, in all of those environments. And that's actually the same thing that we've done with our products as well. We've seen that each of the projects that we've been undertaking for one customer has been the same as the next. So that was the where Normalator came from, for instance, the cleaning of data, making sure that data's robust and works. We could see that we were doing that from day one almost. And that's where Normalator came from, just listening to the clients and seeing it happen elsewhere.
There's all kinds of interesting questions there around how you offer what you offer and the when you build, when you buy, but you know, as for sort of Europe. But I think I'm not a part of those. As much as the geek in me would like to know the answers to those things. I'm going to go back to the staff.
We'll do a
thing.
separate
Let's do a
session.
separate, exactly. Think about staff, because there's obviously lots of staff in the room today. You know, and I know if it's anything like our business, it's looking up. You're absolutely dependent on people, and also if you're a responsible employer, which I can tell you guys are, you want everyone to have a positive experience. It's about them meeting their objectives as well. What does good look like for you? How do you manage that? To get for both sides to get best out of that relationship in terms of being
in terms of taking staff on.
Yeah, exactly, and everything working.
What does good look like?
Yeah.
I think if we're honest, I think, and you know, and we're not involved with all the recruitment that happens these days, but it's attributes that we tend to look for rather than specific technical skills. We're in quite a technical area. Technical skills are important.
Yeah.
But I think in the past we've found that technical skills can be built.
Yeah.
But attributes are quite difficult to build. So I think we've learned that over the years. As I say, you know, we've been very lucky or fortuitous in getting the right people in at the right time. But I think they all share a common sort of attribute of passion for what they do.
Is there a I can tell you want to say something. But is there a CRM tech person? Is there a type of person?
Definitely not. No. I think there are people that we can see a spark of brilliance, really. You know, right early on, you can see that there's a willingness to learn, to be interested in what we do, and once you understand that, you know that you can nurture it and bring it forward.
And then the same question about customers then. So what does good look like in terms of that customer relationship?
For us, our best customers tend to be
Pay us on time.
Yeah. apart from the obvious, our best customers tend to be the ones with complexity in their business,
right?
Which usually means they're large, they're global.
Yeah.
We like the challenge of the trying to fix some of the issues.
They've got stuff that needs sorting out.
They've got stuff that needs sorting. I think, you know, if you look at our customer base these days, we've got our collection of, you know, enterprise type customers. We've also got those customers that are well-funded, high growth type customers that kind of have the same challenges in that they need to be able to do their marketing at speed and consistent, possibly across the globe.
Yeah.
And look like they're an enterprise organisation.
Yeah.
Even though they're not. So I think there are two sort of sweet spots in terms of customers.
But in terms of managing that relationship with them, you know, because obviously, you know, you're talking about large organisations, quite hierarchical, you know, quite high power people, potentially a lot of places to hide. You know, they may not be necessarily the easiest people to work with. So how do you get the best out of those people? I know we haven't prepped for this question, but
our brilliant account team.
Brilliant, there you go. There we go. Beautifully handed over. So.
I think, to be honest, I think it's that. It's that one step staying ahead. You know, if we can prove value, if we can, you know, we're quite often dealing with lots of stakeholders in the same business who possibly don't agree with each other.
Yeah.
So we are there around the table sometimes to create a quorum of, you know, decision,
right,
as well as deliver what we deliver.
Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, we've got to credit some of the account team for that, or all of the account team, not some of the account team. Because that's really that, you know, that job.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one. You know, to be honest, I don't think we did it particularly well in the early days, but it's certainly something we face these days.
And you clearly take pride in it as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think some customers want us to be like that. You know, they bring in a third party that can challenge them, and can, you know, bring their stakeholders together. I think that's important.
We did want to talk about the future, though, right? Because we've talked about how where we are now in terms of MarTech in B2B organisations is unrecognisable, right? I mean, honestly, it's like there's a brilliant example of that I saw recently. Someone put it at a conference about Web3, and they had a video of Bill Gates talking about the internet in 1995. Have you seen this on Letterman? And
Yes.
it's absolutely fantastic because David Letterman was a talk show host in the States, and he's saying, so Bill Gates, who looks about 5, by the way, which is quite extraordinary, he's saying, so tell me about this internet thing. How does it work? He said, well, like baseball games, you can watch them on the internet. He said, Letterman says, yeah, but have you heard of TV? And then he says, okay, yeah, but you can then watch them later. And Letterman says, yeah, but have you heard of video recorders? Right? And this was the best that Letterman could do. Sorry, that Bill Gates could do to explain what the internet is. And MarTech probably is a bit like that, isn't it? I mean, the birth of CRM, where you started, it's
well, yeah. I mean, I think we really only found the bucket that we fit into when marketing operations became a term.
Which is relatively, how 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think somebody made a comment about we were doing marketing operations.
So you went, that's us.
That's us. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was before that we really had a hard time. I think someone said, are we an agency? Are we a consultancy? Yeah. We did a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But we've again, someone sent me a report the other day that said that the agencies that are going to do well in the future are the T-shaped ones, where you cover the ground at the top, but you have strength in depth in a particular area. And I think that's us. We are really strong at marketing ops.
Yeah.
We understand how marketing works across, and sales to a certain extent, across the companies that we work with, but we have that in-depth knowledge.
And nobody can do everything in agency land, and you'd be a fool to claim that you could.
Yeah.
But I think your kind of partnership thing with the Croc is a great example of that, because they're never going to have those creative agents, never going to have the skills you guys have got, or they're very unlikely to have in that depth. So,
and we help them, work, but it works both ways because they help us shine, that we help them shine as well if we get it right.
So Tony, thinking from a technology perspective a bit more, perhaps, what does the future look like? I mean,
obviously we can't have any conversation without talking about AI.
What's AI?
Well, exactly. Yes, I'm not really sure. So, no, I think that we'll be talking about that going forward into the next millennium, I'm sure. But AI is going to be with us. Where organisations are just really getting to grips with it and understanding what they can and can't do with it, and what scares them about it, and all of those interesting things. And so we're putting it into our platforms. We're seeing how it's benefiting us on the data side already. AI is going to be the watchword, I think, going forward into 2025 and beyond. But also, it's the same things, that data cleanliness, efficiencies, marketing, return of investment, all of those things are going to continue, as well as the new buzzwords and so on.
The other thing that I think is really interesting, and particularly interesting for us, is this notion of this service as a software. Have you heard?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of agencies may go that route.
Yeah.
And if my easiest example, I'm not sure if it's a good example, but if you take Uber, they put a brilliant piece of software in the front of a fairly not standard service, but a service.
Yeah.
And disrupted because of that.
Yeah.
And I think in our space, we are very well positioned for that, because we have the product side, we have the service side. And that's something that we're going to be looking at strongly, is that combination in the future.
And that's a bold area to be striding into, but you've got the credibility from having been there.
We have.
Yes. And there you go. So exciting times potentially.
It is. Yeah, it is.
I guess one more question, but just think about the last 25 years. Are there any particular highlights or moments that really leap out to you? Things that you kind of went, we cracked it, or this was a real milestone? Apart from today, obviously.
The one that comes to mind is only because it's just happened. We've had our biggest PO ever since day one.
Great.
Which is a real milestone in my head. You might have a different one.
No, I'm quite happy with that one.
There's been lots.
Been lots.
Yeah, there's been lots. I think we do try and spend the time. It's tough sometimes with companies that are as busy as we are, but we do try and celebrate our successes where we can.
Yeah.
Senior team are very good at making sure that the company is involved in that celebration. And I think, gosh, I'm not sure I can one particular thing comes to mind, but we have lots of successes, I think, that we try and celebrate.
Yeah, quite right too. I think we're probably out of time now. I'm getting a subtle hint from Alison that we might be out of time. I'm good at picking things up like that. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this, and congratulations again. It's amazing.
No, thank you for coming down. Anyway, cheers.
Good to see you.